No. Welcome to the Blue Lake City Council meeting Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022. This is our regular council meeting, and some of us are via Zoom. We are here in the council chambers with Chris Curran, myself, your mayor, Adeline Jones, Elaine Hogan, and Ben McCree. We'll start with our Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we have staff here, Mandy Baker, our city manager, and Emily Woods, who is taking the minutes. Emily, would you establish a quorum of the council, please?
I'll go ahead and do that portion of it, and Emily's going to work on the minutes. So,
okay.
Let's see. Mayor Jones
Here.
Councilmember Hogan
Here.
Councilmember Curran
Here.
and Councilmember McCree.
Here.
All are present.
All are present. We have item 2 now, approve the agenda. Is there anyone from council that would like to move anything around on the agenda? Seeing no one. Chris, did you have anything? Okay. Is there anyone from audience that would like anything changed? Seeing no hands, we'll come back to council. We need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move we approve the agenda as is.
I'll second.
Motion by Chris Curran, seconded by Ben McCree to approve the agenda as is. Is there any further discussion from council? Any discussion from public? Back to council for the roll call vote. I don't know if we need roll call now that we're all together. I guess we don't. Huh?
I don't believe so.
No, I don't think we do. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes. And we were doing that when we were on Zoom. Okay, public comment. The public is invited to present petitions, make announcements, or provide authority of the city of Blue Lake that is not on the agenda. The council may provide up to 15 minutes for this public input session. To assure that each individual presentation is heard, the council may uniformly impose time limitations of 3 minutes to each individual presentation. The public will be given the opportunity to address items that are on the agenda at the time the council takes up each specific agenda item. Do we have anyone from the public this evening? Okay, I'm assuming that we just have people for specific items. So
you did receive one. You did into the record for you.
oh, sure, thank you.
Okay.
But she's looking short. Is it short?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'm kind of short.
Okay.
This is from Lisa Hoover, and it says it was received today at 12:19. Hello, Mandy. First, the Mad Scramble was again a fun event. Next, I may not be back from a class in time for the beginning of the meeting when public comments and questions are solicited, but I'm wondering about options for future public meetings face-to-face with the new COVID guidelines with face mask on as needed. So this is a question for the council. Thank you, Lisa Hoover.
Oh, and here she is.
Oh,
She's
there
in
she
the
is.
waiting room. So Lisa, if you're listening, we just read your letter and your questions. And we will be discussing that item probably at the next, at the item 4 here with the findings. So thank you for asking about the in-person meetings. Thank you for that. Okay, is there any other public comment? We'll move on then to item 4, reaffirm the findings in resolution 1192, resolution of the city council of the city of Blue Lake, making findings pursuant to government code section 54953 as amended by Assembly Bill 361 and authorizing the continued use of virtual meetings, discussion and action in the council. And then we have folks on Zoom that are meeting virtually. So this is kind of a hybrid meeting, is what they're calling this when it's both. So we can discuss a little bit if we'd like to have only in-person meetings, continue with this hybrid model, or go to a full Zoom, which I think we don't need to do so much. Does anyone have a feeling one way or the other?
I would be open to having a hybrid, if we had sort of a limited number of people in the room. We had the public come. But also offering a Zoom option. I don't know how hard that would be for staff to manage too. But
Yeah, my question was gonna be, how much of a burden is it to do Zoom? Because I think it at least increases accessibility, which is good.
It does, yeah. It has shown to do that. We have had a lot more participation in the last year and a half that we've gone through Zoom than when we used to sit here, oftentimes with no one in the audience. At least we have had some participation. So it seems like our citizens like it.
I think from a staffing level, I think we can accommodate it. We just need to do a little bit of like, put a little thought into how we would arrange the room, just to be able to capture the audience. And so that may be what, we may not be able to capture the audience except maybe when they speak. And so maybe when we have public comment, we would have them come to, because you can see our range of our camera it's not a very wide angle camera. So, but I think we could accommodate it if we had public comment or things, maybe, in the past, we would have them come to the podium to speak. And I think that would solve that issue. I think it's easily manageable. But I think having the Zoom option is really good as well. I think it does increase access and participation.
So when so then this finding, we're going to have to continue it. We're going to do it tonight. We're going to pass it probably, but we'll have to continue having that on the agenda if we have this format. This is still the format that goes under this resolution number, I think.
Yeah, I can talk with the attorney about incorporating the Zoom option, and it may come into play at a different place. And I have to just look and see about how what we've adopted in the past is maybe if there's an ordinance or resolution that talks about how council conducts business or conducts meetings, and maybe we would add into that the Zoom option or a hybrid option, so you wouldn't have to come back each time and reaffirm it through this. It would just be incorporated into your regular operations. So, but I do think that there's a lot of cities and commissions and things that are trying to incorporate this option because it does increase participation.
Yeah, I know. I'm just thinking like you are the mechanics of the thing, because if we go back to the dais and it's all sitting there with an audience there, our TV screen is there. So in order to accommodate everything going on, it's going to be tricky. Are your tables shorter than ours or smaller?
Yeah,
Those two
down
tables?
little shorties.
Yeah, well, you maybe needed shorter ones too. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe not.
and I think we could maybe rearrange this a bit. The table, so maybe this section of the table goes there instead. And maybe we do like a couple of shorter tables on the side. I think we can play around with the arrangement.
Yeah, maybe this dais should be around this way, facing.
Yeah,
And then if there is audience, they would have to be on sort of the sides or
Right.
something.
yeah. Yeah, we just don't like have a place for the TV. to
Anywhere
go
else. I
anywhere
know
else.
we're sort of locked into where the television
Yeah.
is. So at this point, I think we can work around that. All right, for tonight, though, we do need to make the finding for resolution number 1192. Continue with this.
Wait, did we close public comment and now we're on the number 4?
I don't think we
Yeah.
went to the public, did we? For this
Yeah.
one? For number
Not
4.
yet.
Oh, okay. Is there anyone from public that would like to speak on this item concerning having our meetings by Zoom and and or in person, or the hybrid motion meetings we're having right now. Seems like we have a lot of people that are here. All right, well, oh, Lisa, yes.
Hi, thank you. So the hybrid, Chris, is so you could have both, you could have Zoom and a little bit of public participation there in person. Is that what that means?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That sounds good. That sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. We're gonna have to find out legally how we can do that. We're sort of doing it now. We've had one or two people come in person. We had the mayor of Eureka come that night for the presentation. We had the woman with the single payer that came, so, but we have a lot more participation by Zoom, so thank you. Is there any other questions or comments about this? Okay, let's come back to council then for a vote on resolution number 1192. Passage.
Yes, I would make a motion that we reaffirm the findings contained in resolution 1192 and explore a hybrid option for our next meeting.
And I second.
Well said. Okay, there's a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any further discussion from council? Anything from public?
I just wanted to clarify, are you saying that you want the next council meeting to include an in-person option as well, or we'll discuss it at the next meeting for?
Well, you mentioned getting legal review and seeing
Yeah.
what our options are, so I think we need to
Okay.
figure that out first, right?
Just wanted to
So we'll
make sure.
confirm that at the next meeting.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so the motion is to pass resolution 1192, a resolution of the city council making findings pursuant to government code section 54953 and as amended by Assembly Bill 361 and authorizing the continued use of virtual meetings with looking into another hybrid meeting in the future. All right, any further discussion? There's been a motion by Chris Curran, seconded by Elaine Hogan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. All right, Vietnam War Veteran Day Proclamation. This is a proclamation recognizing March 29th, 2022 as Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day. And this is an action item. In 2017, the president signed into law the Vietnam War Veterans Recognition Act, designating March 29th of each year National Vietnam War Veterans Day. This March will mark the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War and presents an opportunity for the city of Blue Lake to recognize the service of many of our Blue Lake community members and veterans across the nation. And there is an attached proclamation, which I can read now or after we pass it, whatever is the pleasure of the council. My husband is a Vietnam War veteran. Luckily, he was stationed in Alaska for most of the Vietnam War tour that he had. So he was not on the front, but I know there are many Vietnam veterans in our community still that served. Okay, I can read that now. Proclamation in recognition of Vietnam War Veterans Day. Whereas the President of the United States signed into law the Vietnam War Veterans Recognition Act of 2017, designating March 29th of each year National Vietnam War Veterans Day. And whereas millions of brave Americans served our country in this conflict with courage, honor, and valor. And whereas more than 58,000 individuals made the ultimate sacrifice in Vietnam, and many thousand more were wounded in combat. And whereas there are 1,677 Americans still missing and unaccounted for from the Vietnam conflict, and their families, friends, and fellow veterans still endure uncertainty concerning their fate. And whereas the 50th anniversary presents an opportunity for the people of the United States to honor and thank our Vietnam veterans for all that they have given in the service of our country. And whereas on March 29th, 2022, veterans organizations, municipalities, and families across the state will hold welcome home ceremonies to honor all Vietnam and Vietnam era veterans who served with honor. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Blue Lake hereby is proud to recognize and proclaim March 29th, 2022 in the City of Blue Lake as Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day. Is there any discussion from council about this proclamation? Anyone from audience that would like to weigh in on this proclamation? Okay, we'll come back to motion to pass resolution, a proclamation recognizing March 29th as Vietnam Veteran War Day.
Move we the Vietnam War Veterans Day proclamation.
I'll second.
Okay, there's been a motion by Elaine Hogan, second by Chris Curran to accept the Vietnam War Veteran Day proclamation. Is there any further discussion from council? Any discussion from public? Back to council for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Okay, thank you. We're moving on to item 6. And this is the Blue Lake Community Emergency Response Team, also known as CERT, annual presentation. And I believe we will have someone presenting on this. Hi, Kit.
Hello. You have in your packets a written report on the year. We continue to be active. We continue to meet regularly, monthly, even through,
Kit,
yeah.
Kit, just to let you know, we didn't get anything in our packets written about this item.
Oh, that it did get sent to you. Mandy, I thought you got that.
I did not see, I just saw the notice saying that you wanted to be on the agenda and you were going to
Oh,
read.
I thought
And I may have
Lynn,
missed it as an attachment.
thank you
I'm
for that
sorry.
clarification. I thought Lynn had, Lynn had prepared a written thing and somehow it didn't get to you. I apologize.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And it may have come as an attachment and I missed it. I apologize.
Okay, well, let me then, Ben, you're new. Let me just recap very briefly. CERT is the Community Emergency Response Team. It was developed originally out of the LA Fire Department after the 1985 Whittier Narrows earthquake. Actually, it was formed before that, and the earthquake really showed the need for a broader citizen capability to help the first responders in responding to any kind of a big disaster. Of course, the big disasters for us are flood, earthquake, and fire. Earthquake being the most, likely. And if it's a big one, it could result in a big flood. There are a number of CERT people that have been trained in Blue Lake. Currently, we've got about 12 active members. And like I said, it's the usual suspects, me and Lynn Glenn and Andy Jones and Barbara Lane, and let's see, we've got Dennis Whitcomb and Lynette and Earl Eddy. At any rate, we've got a good crew, but it's small, and one of its limitations is that it tends to be on the older end of the spectrum, and we would like to try and encourage some younger, stronger people to join us. Maybe people who would jump over hurdles with their bike on their shoulders or something like that, Ben. I didn't say that, did I? At any rate, that's who we are. Currently, we've
Coming in and out. Oh, it's us, okay.
yes. We are actually activated by the fire department. We're under the auspices of the fire department. We can be activated by the city as well. in order to have insurance coverage for our activities, we need to be activated by somebody, by one of those two entities, and then we are, capable of working with that coverage. So we have 12 active volunteer members. We have a liaison with the fire department, Battalion Chief Ed Jones. We meet monthly. We have a number of good skills in our group. We have 3 registered nurses. Laura Chapman is one of our members, and she is an international disaster manager. She goes all over the world teaching people about the incident command system and that kind of thing. It's kind of amazing that we have that in little old Blue Lake. We have 3 people who have been trained as CERT trainers, and a construction manager. We've got certified first aid people, that kind of thing. And our intent is that we will be adjunct to the fire department, helping them out in the case of a big event. We can do minor search and rescue. We can do minor first aid triage. We can help with more generalized things like, if people need food or water, we can help with things like that. We can assist with traffic control or movement control, those kinds of things. Let's see, sort of off my game here, not knowing that you didn't have the written stuff. We have a cache of supplies and tools and equipment that was largely funded by the Sunrise Rotary. And we are currently keeping those in the Arcata Presbyterian House. As soon as the fire department gets their building copacetic, we will be moving up there. And so we will be deployable with our own backpacks, with a number of personal tools. We can shut off power. We can turn off gas lines if we smell gas. We can put up caution tape. We can do a lot of things like that. We can just walk around and make sure that people aren't trapped or in a dangerous situation. We also meet the team leader. Our CERT team leader meets bi-monthly with the Humboldt County CERT Coalition. So we're staying in connection with the broader Humboldt County Coalition. The CERT team leader for the past at least 5 years, I think it's more like 6 now, has been Lynn Glenn. We very much appreciate the work that she's been done. And unfortunately, you're going to have to put up with me from now on. So I've just taken over the baton on that, and will be the team leader. I'm sure I won't be as thorough as Lynn, but I might be more fun. I don't know. The other thing, the only last thing is that on March 19th, we will be doing our first live practice drill that we've been able to do since COVID hit. So that's the first in a couple of years. And so if you see what looks like a full disaster preparedness activity going on up around the Presbyterian Church on March 19th, that'll be us doing a practice run, pulling all our equipment out, starting things up, going out and pretending to survey neighborhoods, all that kind of thing. And I don't know whether Mandy or anybody that needs a further notice to the community that, people don't worry that the aliens are landing or something. So I will take, suggestions about that. And with that, are there any questions?
You said you met regularly, Kit. What is your meeting and where do you meet?
Well, for the past 2 years, we've been meeting just like you do, Zoom.
Okay.
We've been meeting Zoom. And it's monthly. We get together monthly and we talk about something, and then usually have some brief training program. We try to practice with our radios every time, because whenever you read any kind of a debrief on an emergency situation, the one thing that always comes up is communication. So we try and practice that every time. But for instance, we've had trainings on damage assessment and sizing up the size of an event. Light search and rescue. We had a little training on terrorism. That was interesting. Tsunami awareness, of course. It's not something that's going to happen to us in Blue Lake, but if we're elsewhere in Humboldt County, it could certainly be an issue. Managing electric and gas hazards is another training based on materials from PG&E. And then just setting up ready to be responsive to the fire department. Really, we set up and are ready for the fire department to deploy us, to tell us what they want us to do. So we don't operate independently in a disaster. We get direction from the first responders, tell us what to do.
Do you communicate with the school also? Because I know you were involved with some of their cross-country runs. And I was wondering if you have coordination with Blue Lake Elementary School.
Not specifically. We certainly have reached out and made connection. There is some connection with the Rancheria TERT, which is the tribal emergency response team, but their response team seems to be in a bit of disarray right now. But we do try and maintain that connection because, of course, they are, have that Red Cross Center, verified or certified Red Cross Center. But that's good. That's a good, question, Adeline. More coordination with the school.
No, I was just thinking if there was some kind of a natural disaster, I'm sure you have contact people from the school, but it would be nice to just make sure that, they're aware of you and you're aware of them and that kind of thing, because that would be an integral part, is to get 158 children safe if necessary. Is there any other questions from council?
No questions. Yeah, thanks for all the work you guys do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. We're going to need to find some more members here as COVID winds down and we can start meeting in person again. But thank you. We remain at your service.
Very nice. Thank you. All right. Very good. We'll move on then to item 7, which is the unfortunate news that we have a city council vacancy, and we need to discuss and determine what protocol we'd like to take to fill the city council position vacated by council member Summer Doherty. Summer is moving because she found a job in another area. So that leaves us with an opening. She was also our mayor pro tem, so I think we need to talk about that as well. I noticed that Arcata just lost a member, and they were able to squeeze into the next election to get the opening.
We missed that here at home.
But I don't know if it's too late. I think it might be too late for us. So is going to.
Oh, when it starts clicking very quickly.
Okay, yeah, we need to get on that then. So what we'll do is if we decide to simply appoint, we do have applications in City Hall that people can take out. And we can look at them and make a determination in that 60-day period, which maybe at the next meeting, because
Otherwise, you'll have to have a special meeting.
unless we had a special meeting, that's true. Anyway, these are all ideas that, jump in if you want to comment on that, on how we should proceed.
And they would be appointed until the November election, and then it would go to,
Well, see, that's the thing I don't understand, because
or would they
she,
fill their term?
her term was with my term, which is a 4-year term, and it started in 2020. Because, 2021 actually, but we were in the 2020 election, because I know my name is always on the ballot with the presidential election.
Yeah,
There
so,
were 3 of us.
right, so it would be to fill that whole term, but the election process to fill that term would be in November, on the November ballot. So you'd be going for a shortened term, but whatever Summer's term was, I believe is how it would work.
Well, the shortened term, Elaine and Chris, if I'm not mistaken, you're up for reelection this November.
Right, we're gonna have 4, we would have 4 on the ballot. Because Ben was appointed.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Olivia's, so
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
that's right.
I'll be up.
okay. I didn't know how that worked. I
Yeah.
thought you went, so does that skewer? So then,
No,
then
it
their
would be-
terms would be only for 2 years, like Ben's would be only for 2 years, and theirs would be for 4. That would catch it up to the right way.
It would be I believe it's to fulfill the vacancy term. So it would be fulfilling Summer's 4-year term, because she just got reelected.
Right.
And then Olivia had just been reelected as well.
Right,
So you're
right.
at 4, and then, you're all 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's just that Ben and Summer are, those 2 vacancies
Would be for
a
just
little
2
bit
years.
shorter.
And
No,
these would be for 4 years.
they would,
I
theirs would
mean-
be for like 3 years, like, because they just got reelected. So it's to fulfill the term that was vacated.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Am I saying
Yeah.
that right?
Well,
Okay.
kind of. It's just that we have to always make sure that we have the 3 and 2, and that it rotates every 2 years. See, so we're in the middle of a 4-year term. I am, and so is Ben technically.
Right, so
And this new person.
the new people they're going to come on for an election prior to Elaine and Chris, as it's gonna seem kind of close, but it will even out. Because they're the new people voted in will be fulfilling the terms that were vacated, which will
Right.
then go to the next regular election cycle.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right, if that
Confusing
hasn't
myself.
confused
I
everyone
think I've got it.
completely. Hopefully it hasn't. Okay, so what is the pleasure of the council as far as appointing versus a special election?
Yeah, it sounds like we can appoint, right, we can call for applications, we can follow those process that's outlined here, and then at the regular election in November.
They'd all go on the ballot.
Yeah.
Again, yeah.
Okay,
And I would just like to ask that that our application be made into some kind of an online form, so that's also digital.
Okay.
So we can advertise it more easily.
Give it a QR.
and would the deadline be the March meeting?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it would be the Wednesday before the Tuesday
So
meeting.
to get it in the packet.
Yeah.
right? Okay.
And then I believe you could extend the time and have a special meeting if you needed to, or if we didn't receive any, or you need to do some additional outreach or whatever, so.
Okay.
And in the past, what we've done is we've posted everywhere, we've done social media outreach, we put it on our website, we put additional posters around.
Great.
We can put it even on our, maybe on the water bill or
Oh, yeah,
whatever we can do to just kind of get the word out.
yeah.
There's not a lot of outlets. Usually the community news page is a good one.
Should be in the Times Standard too, I
Oh.
think, but,
Post on there.
well, I mean, just a press release,
Mhm.
because when Arcata's had their,
I did
But
see in
they're
the back of
bigger.
the North Coast Journal that Arcata advertised there.
Yeah, and we normally do use the journal. I
Oh,
think it
okay.
reaches a larger audience because it's free as well. So a lot of people pick it up and it's a little bit more affordable than the Time Standard's very expensive. It's like $400 or $500.
So our next our March meeting, the fourth Tuesday is the 22nd. So that means that the deadline would be the 16th of March. That doesn't give a whole lot of time.
It's a really fast turnaround.
It's a simple application though.
It is, yeah. And we've done it numerous times.
Okay, so it looks like, oh, is there any discussion from public about this item? All right, let's come back to council. It looks like we do need to make a motion to accept. Do we need to accept Summer's resignation and
Yeah. I guess we- You do that? and
yeah,
just
we should
wrap
formally
it all up.
accept the person and
Accept the city attorney's recommendation to appoint someone to fill the vacancy.
I'll second.
motion by Chris Curran, seconded by Ben McCree to accept Summer Doherty's resignation, sadly, but to appoint someone, and we have the specific date that will be. Applications must be in by March 16th, Wednesday. Okay, is there any further discussion from council? Anything from audience on this motion? Back to council for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously. Okay. Item 8. SHN contract amendment, 1-year extension. Authorize the city manager to execute a 1-year contract extension to the current SHN contract for engineering and planning services. And this is an action item.
Yeah, so we're just in the middle of so many projects right now. And the RFQ process, it's a pretty involved process. In the meantime, I don't think, I think we're just too far into so many things at this point that I'd like to extend their contract for 1 year. So it gives us a little bit of continuity. And it also makes our RFQ process legitimate, so that we aren't, skewing anything and, I'm not really sure how it would work if we would, normally what we do with the RFQ process is
Which stands for
request for
proposal.
qualifications. So we allow ourselves to, when we write up the agreements and the action that we ask for is to allow us to contract with one firm to represent the city, but to also contract with additional firms as necessary in the event that someone has a specialized area of expertise. So it's real manageable, but at this point, we're so involved in so many projects and grant applications and funding processes that I'd like to ask to extend for 1 year, while at the same time running a parallel path of going out for qualifications. Because it feels like a year goes by really, really fast, especially some of these projects are a couple of years out. So I'd like to have that continuity of service, at least to show our funding agencies as well. So we do have some fairly large pending applications. We have the water tank replacement project. It's like a $1.6 million project. We have Greenwood project. I think that's also 1.6 million. And they're just coming in cycles and sequencing. So that's where we are with this project.
So no change in any cost to the
No,
city
we would
or
just be
anything like that?
extending the contract time with the current rate schedule. that
And
we
this
have.
is confirmed by the company also that? they
Yeah,
understand
and I
that?
did also talk with our city attorney to make sure that it was reasonable, and he said that, it is reasonable. There's times when cities come back for longer extensions just because of the status, but a 1-year extension is palatable. It makes sense.
Okay, any further discussion or questions from council? Any questions or comments from the public on this item? Come back to council then for a possible vote.
I'd like to move to authorize the manager to execute a 1-year contract extension for SHN.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made by Ben McCree, seconded by Elaine Hogan. Is there any further discussion from council? Anything from public? Back to council for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. Let's move on. Now we're at resolution number 1195, Cal Recycle Resolution SB 1383. Notice of intent to comply with SB 1383 and authorizing the city manager to submit on behalf of the city. And this is an action item.
So this is a little bit of a confusing process that we've been going through. Cal Recycle recently made some funding available, and it's kind of a per capita allocation. So the city was eligible for $20,000, and you can use the funding to help you move towards compliance with SB 1383. The city at the same time also is eligible for a waiver, and I believe it's for up to 5 years for compliance with SB 1383 due to our size and our waste, the amount of waste that we generate. So the city, we talked with the consultants that we've been working with through HWMA, through our JPA. So we have Edgar and Associates on board, and they're helping all of us kind of work through a lot of what SB 1383 is bringing. And there's a lot of gaps right now in the planning process. There's a lot of gaps in implementation strategies. So where the consultant is really kind of helping us work through some pretty big initiatives that eventually the city will be able to participate in, but right now it doesn't really have the capacity to fulfill. So we ran a parallel path, and we consulted with Edgar and Associates to make sure that we were on the right track. So we applied for the waiver, and we also applied for the funding. In applying for the funding, there were some requirements that Cal Recycle put on the allocation. One of them is filing a notice of intent to comply. And I think that's fine. Obviously we do intend to comply. We just don't know at what stage or at what level that, is going to take place. So there are some things that immediately that we can start working on. We can do community outreach, we can do education, we can do some smaller scale, community-wide composting programs. We can continue to coordinate with the larger jurisdictions for larger programs. We can continue to work with our waste haulers to kind of see how we can implement maybe 3 container systems. And so there's a lot of things that we can do. Some of the bigger initiatives and objectives may be out of our reach for a while. But in looking at the funding and also looking at the waiver process, it seemed that we could do both. So we did apply for the waiver and we did apply for the funding, and the process for doing that, Cal Recycle recognized that the application requirements probably didn't meet every council and jurisdiction's council meeting cycle. So they allowed us to apply for the funding and then bring back to them some of the required documentation. So that's why resolution number 1195 is here. It's coming after the fact that we submitted for the funding. We won't receive the funding if the council decides that they don't want to pass resolution number 1195. So it doesn't, we're not tied to it. I would recommend passing resolution 1195 because I think having the additional funding will be really helpful. This is going to be kind of a long process, and I'm actually kind of excited to have some resources that we can actually put towards it so that we can make it more of a legitimate process and we can really look for options that may fit more with the city of Blue Lake. So we're proposing, right now, Trevor is our recycling coordinator. Traditionally, the parks director has been the recycling coordinator. So he's been working with Cal Recycle. He's been attending the meetings with HWMA and Edgar and Associates, and we've been participating at that level. So what I would propose is that the $20,000 would be used to augment some of his waste, which is also very helpful to our parks creation budget, and some programming. I think some like a community composting program that could go in hand with our community garden project, are legitimate ways for the city to show some positive steps. So that's how we wrote the proposal, and that's what is reflected in our notice of intent to comply, the resolution. And if you have any questions, I hope I can answer them. We're all learning. It seems like each day we learn something new. So
Now, how did we dovetail with our garbage company on this?
yeah, so that's a great question, and it's a big kind of missing piece of the puzzle that we have to kind of figure out. And I think 1383, I think we all kind of took a position of like, we knew it was coming, but if we just didn't really look at it, maybe they would put it off longer. And the state is really saying, sorry, you have to do something. But the state's also saying we recognize that this is a really big thing, and we're going to give you some time, but we need to see that you're moving forward. So it's kind of the carrot and the stick, the carrot is $20,000. The stick is, could be some giving you need to get compliance. And I think through this whole process, what Edgar and Associates is looking at as well is how do our tax dollars fit into the equation, and what does this look like? Because ultimately they're going to be required to take this waste, and then they need to have someplace to take it as well. Because there's going to be, at each level, there's going to be implementation requirements. So, looking at properties to do large scale food composting is something that's being looked at. What does that look like for haulers? What does it look like for their equipment? Are there going to be equipment upgrades that need to be, instituted to be able to manage organics versus, regular waste streams? So there's a lot that has to come into play, but on a good path. We're making some good, there's good conversations happening and some real solid, proposals, but it's a big issue. And I can't even imagine being a larger jurisdiction and thinking about, Eureka, think about all the fast food restaurants and everyone that you're going to have to, be, working with to capture those organics. And so there's a lot that's going into this. Luckily, we can do some of the smaller things that are actually really great for our community, and things that are manageable.
So it doesn't address plastics or glass recycling or anything?
No,
like
this
that.
is food waste.
Just for- Okay, very interesting.
Yeah, I think the most of the jurisdictions are members of that. And so we're all kind of taking this on together. And being a small jurisdiction is kind of nice because the bigger jurisdictions, they're really digging into this. Some of them have more staffing capacity. So it's, we're kind of getting to ride along a bit, but also being at the table to advocate for, some of the smaller needs of the more limited jurisdictions. And CalRecycle's been very nice to work with and very helpful, and they understand that there's differing levels of implementation capacity. But I think what we're saying through this process is that we do want to be part of the solution, but our solutions may be on a smaller scale or through a different avenue than some of the larger jurisdictions, but we are willing to definitely be a part of the solution.
It doesn't give a timeline as far as when we're going to comply or.
It does. So we have, there are some benchmarks. The adopting this resolution is one of those. That's really your notice of intent that you are saying that you're going to accept the money with the intention to comply. So there are some things coming down next January that we're going to have to work with. There is also in the notice of intent to comply some specific language that says we recognize we are not going to be able to meet all of the requirements and that there may be fines associated with that. And we are hopeful that the state will work with us to manage that. And I think that's part of, the stick, that the state's putting out there that, we can fine you, but if you also show us that you're working towards something, we're probably not going to. So we're kind of seeing that on a couple of levels with the state right now. So it's really just finding ways for jurisdictions to be successful, because ultimately all the jurisdictions need to embrace this and not fight it. So these are ways for the state to kind of help us through that process.
I'm assuming Trevor knew this was something that was going to be part of his job
He loves
description.
recycling.
All right, well, we have a community garden
Yeah,
out there,
yeah.
and this building as well. These
Mhm.
folks, you could use a garden, so.
Yeah,
there's that.
we have the school. I think that's a really great opportunity. I think through the school, the lunch program, they have a little gardening program. They've been wanting to do some composting. Working with the school reaches a lot of kind of the low-hanging fruit items. So you're educating the youth, that's trickling down to the parents. It's instituting new policies to, for they are a larger food producer for us and a larger waste producer. The city really doesn't have a lot of organic waste generators. So we have the brewery is probably our next biggest one. And then I would say maybe some of our manufacturing, Fish Brothers, Tomaso's, but it's pretty limited. So probably working with the school, we can really hit a pretty large segment of the more commercial producers. And then it's really working with the community on a household level on what they can do.
Exciting. All right, is there any further questions or comments from council about this item of staff? Is there anyone from the public that would like to have any questions or comments on this issue of composting and recycling? Okay, let's come back to the council. We need a motion to pass resolution number 1195, a notice of intent to comply with SB 1383.
I would move adoption of resolution 1195.
Seconded.
Motion made by Chris Curran, seconded by Ben McCready to pass resolution number 1195. Any further discussion from council? Anyone from public? Back to council for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Item 10, Powers Creek District Development Update Discussion.
So this is kind of placeholder agenda item to provide updates on projects in the Powers Creek District. So I don't have a lot of new information. We're still working kind of in the same fashion as we've been moving on previous reports. And I did include in my city manager's report a more
Yes.
detailed
Yes,
description of the activities.
right.
Just for the public's knowledge and update, things are moving forward with the bike park. We just had a bike event over the weekend, the Mad Scramble. It was really fun. I think you went running past me at one point with, is that Ben? We had a lot of participants, lots of kids this year, which was really fun. And part of that event was a fundraiser for the bike park. So the Friends of the Annie and Mary who put that on are donating a portion of the revenue from that to the bike park, which was exciting. We also received about $245 in donations from, Emily and I had made some merchandise, some t-shirts and decals and things, and provided a space to give people updates on the bike park. And so that was really exciting. People are super excited about the project and looking for ways to, give money or time and resources. And so I think that that's moving ahead in a really forward fashion. We did receive a donation of dirt to start the bike park, which is great. Pacific Builders is doing a project in Arcata, and the soil composition is perfect for what our needs were. So they knew about the project. And so we arranged for them to haul their dirt out to our site. So that's a big part of the project, is just getting the materials. Emily made a pretty cool banner that says, future home of the bike park. So as people are going by, they're starting to see some things happening. So that's exciting. We'll be meeting with the engineers next week to look at a grading plan. That's probably our biggest issue right now, is really, and we address any type of drainage issues before we move forward. I mean, obviously, like, people are just salivating, looking at the piles of dirt, they want to start moving things around. Like, we can't, we've got to get the grading done correctly. So, but that seems to be a fairly straightforward issue. We're getting a lot of support from the biking community, so it's really been a great project.
So just to stop you for a minute
Yeah.
there, so the bike event occurred in the center part of the Creek District.
It did.
But the permanent bike park is going to try.
Right. Yes.
Okay, so different places.
Yeah, different look. I mean, obviously, it would be great. The whole thing could be, a big giant bike park, but that's also a really great area for development as well. So it started, the bike park, the Mad Scramble started a few years ago, and they did the first kind of iteration of the course. And then through COVID, we had some of our local kids basically spent their after Zoom hours out there with shovels and picks, and they built themselves another bike track, and it's been great. So this year we incorporated the two and made it a more established route, which was really fun. So the kids were actually really excited too, because people were like, oh, this is really great. It's like, these little guys built this. So that was really fun. So, but yes, so the bike park eventually will be down in the triangle portion of the property.
And we're working together with the mountain bike club on that. aren't we?
Yeah. So we're working with Redwood Coast Mountain Biking Association, and they've been a real supporter of this to the city as an option. Stephen Pearl is one of their members. He's, I believe he's an engineer. He did the initial designs. They are gung-ho to help with funding and fundraising, also volunteer hours. They're going to be doing at their annual meeting, I believe it's in the second weekend of March. They're doing a gear swap, March 12th. They'll be doing a gear swap over at Crash Hall, and it's also part of their annual meeting, and they're going to be donating the proceeds of that to the bike park as well. So there's a lot of fun things happening with that. We're setting up some regular updates on the website. We've got some sponsorship opportunities because ultimately we have to raise the money to build this. But I think that's such a fun aspect of this project is that, we do want to involve the public and the community and the kids to build this rather than, just going, we definitely will look for some grant funding as well, but just kind of that grassroots effort has been really fun to work with. So we do have a lot of support in the community, and it's kind of like picking up steam faster than, we almost can keep pace. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I saw the piles of dirt out there, and then I did during COVID see the kids, because I bike along there, but I was almost doing this. I'm not seeing that
I know.
all along because I didn't want to think about insurance issues
Right.
or anything like that. I was like, okay. I don't see those children over there. on
We
their
did
bikes.
talk with insurance about it, on a certain level. And we felt pretty comfortable with the level of building that they were doing, and that we knew it wasn't, connecting from the Andy and Mary Trail, and then they hop across the bridge, and then they ride out there. And even we've got little kids on Strider bikes that are riding it, and it's just been a really nice. I think it's kind of a nice precursor for the community to see what biking activities really could look like in the city. I think the Mad Scramble was the same way. It wasn't overdone. It wasn't a huge impact. It was fun. And then it was done. And, it was nice to see so many people come out and support it. So I think, as we start moving forward into these events, we'll get a better comfort level with, what it looks like, what those impacts can be. And then it helps us too, to kind of think about mitigating, things if we see something that's maybe not really, that's
And then in your staff report, you talked a little bit about the old peach tree company. I call it that, but it's Calgon Carbon Company.
Yeah, I haven't had any updates lately on Calgon Carbon. I think they're still pursuing that down a couple of different pathways. And so hopefully we'll receive an update here soon about any type of conversations that have been taking place. But I am hopeful that something exciting will work out with that site. It's not agreement, I believe it's called. I just keep calling it the DDA. So working through the terms of that to bring back to council. We've been looking a lot at what cities needs are as part of that agreement, and what is going to be the access pathway for children as they are going to school. And so what are some of those improvements, so looking at kids coming across the footbridge onto Broderick. So, sidewalk improvements, lighting improvements, crosswalk improvements. So, as we've started to really think of this project a little more holistically, a lot of those things are popping up and are part of the conversation, which has been really good. So we've also been talking to other cities about what they asked for in their agreements and what some of those impacts were, or what would they have liked to have asked for, and then also looking through the funding sources to see what is a legitimate ask. And luckily these projects are pretty comprehensive, and the state recognizes that, we don't build tenement apartments anymore, that these have to be long-standing, livable infusions into the community. So a lot of these amenities, vehicle charging stations, additional transit stops, bike pathways, trail improvements, those are all eligible expenses. So that's exciting. So those conversations are still taking place. And I anticipate we'll be bringing those back to council, if not at the next meeting, possibly a special meeting, just to keep things moving forward.
Do we have any further sketches or design from our city architect on? Because we had a design that was brought forward. It's been about 3 years ago now, but
Yeah.
I was wondering if that's been changed or tweaked or
So I haven't
what he's
seen any
looking at.
new designs. There were some initial sketches that were developed just to kind of look at massing, to see what would be appropriate and how much property they would be requesting to develop. So some of those initial sketches had a little bit of architectural detail, but didn't really go far enough, I think, to really give you a feeling for anything beyond just kind of footprint, how things could lay out. So, but once the DDA is signed, that's part of the process. And that's where council has a lot more authority to participate at that point, is when you really start getting into the design details, the looks, the amenities, the materials, kind of the aesthetics of the project.
parking,
Parking,
landscaping,
all of that, yeah.
all of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's, once the DDA is what kind of triggers that, because ultimately it's going to be tens of thousands of dollars to go down that process. And a developer, isn't going to do that up front without having some, control that, the city is legitimately negotiating. It doesn't mean that you have to sign agreement in the end, but it does mean that you have to legitimately negotiate through the process. So, and then Storyland Studios, we just finalized their contract today, actually. So we've been working with them on a schedule. So we anticipate that in probably next month, we'll be having some of our first kind of drilled down conversations with smaller user groups. I know they're going to want to meet with council, meet with some of the commissions initially to kind of get a feel for kind of the, the governmental objectives and pathways that we've been, kind of going down. And then they'll start moving forward with community outreach. They'll be doing a lot of their analysis, site visits. They'll start looking at pro forma data, demographics and stuff. So that will be starting next month, which I think will be really exciting. And that'll be, we've said it's got to be more of a hands-on project. The community needs to have a level of engagement that they feel comfortable with. They need to be able to, brainstorm and work through some of these ideas and give comment and feedback. And that's really what these guys specialize in. So hopefully they do that. That's why they rose to the higher level on the review process, because of that skill set.
So they're coming to the planning commission? Is that what I heard you say?
No, so we'll be having some special sessions with them. And we'll probably just agendize it as a meeting, like a working session. Because they do come from all over. There's people in San Francisco, LA, London. They've got a pretty wide swath. So while they're here, they want to meet with as many people. And I think it's good to have everyone kind of dialogue too, the different commissions. That's one of our match items as well, is staff and commission time and council time. So the time that you spend giving feedback and reviewing things and going through the process, we get to count that as match to the project as well. So
that would be a special meeting that would have the council and planning commission, maybe an economic development
Yeah, I
commission as
anticipate-
part of.
yeah, I think
Okay.
that's probably the best way to manage their time and our resources. And they're looking at somewhere You know, they're gonna be presenting rates and everything too, maybe through a couple different mechanisms. They may want to do some Zoom outreach to staff and maybe some limited commission. And then in-person meetings. And then they'll be sending us stuff to disseminate. I don't know if they'll use social media. They may manage that way as well. So.
Okay. All right, I wanted to ask first if the council has any more questions of Mandy on this topic. Okay, then I'll open it up to public. Lisa, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's been up for a while because there was a lot of breakup. I couldn't hear big sections of what was delivered. So I might be going back a little bit, one of which is, Mandy, were you talking about the housing element update? Again, it went on for about 3 minutes. It was very garbled. So there was a housing element thing in your report. And so did you talk about the housing element already?
I did not. I didn't hit on the housing element. Did you have a question though? I could answer.
Yeah. Well,
answer.
It was just frustrating because I couldn't hear some of it, but this housing element update, what is that? And what is the relationship of that with any developments that happen in the Powers Creek district? What is this housing element update, please?
So the city does not have a certified housing element with the state, and we're required to have one. So we've been working for the last 3 years on ways to update our element and to meet the objectives that the state has laid out for us. There's a lot of deficiency in our current housing element that doesn't meet the current requirements from the state. Some of our zoning,
what are
some of our zoning language is preclusive to development. It's fairly restrictive. For instance, there's language in some of our zoning that requires specific lot sizes for development that precludes a resident from developing maybe an accessory dwelling unit on their property. There's language that precludes specific types of building construction on properties that is no longer allowable by the state. There's also some density development requirements that we have in place that preclude higher density development in the community, preclude smaller units. Our parking requirements are somewhat restrictive to development, doesn't really allow for flexibility when looking at alternative transportation modes. So the city is basically on the state's naughty list for not being compliant, and we've been very forcefully told that we need to come into compliance, or we are not only not eligible for specific funding sources, but we may have some of our current funding sources reduced as for non-compliance. So the city has a draft housing element that we believe will meet the state standards. We presented that to the planning commission a couple weeks ago, moved it forward to their next meeting next Monday for a public hearing, and then it'll go to the city council for consideration of adoption.
What does this have to do with the developments at Powers Creek? What's the direct relationship?
The direct relationship is that we are required to have specific zoning in the community that allows for higher density development. The city's never been able to really meet that requirement based upon the zoning that we have currently in place. So the Powers Creek district allows for a higher density of development, and that helps us along the pathway of compliance with the state standards.
So the Powers Creek is already zoned for higher density.
Yes, it is.
So this housing element is, again, my question had to do with the relationship to Powers Creek, because some of the things you talk about, I'm not sure if one thing comes before the other? Do you need to have the housing element updated before anything happens in Powers Creek?
No. We don't. But we wrote the opportunity zone specifically to meet state standards so that it would help us meet our compliance objectives.
If cities don't comply, Lisa, with the state, which is now telling the cities that you need to have more housing available, you need to make that happen, then, you know, the state can come in and take over. The worst case scenario is that the state can come to a city and take over the management and the running of your city if you're not compliant. So, you know, I don't mean to be scary or anything, but I'm just saying that, you know, we have a responsibility that we have to comply with what the state is mandating. And there's a mandate now that there's not enough housing in the state of California. And that's something that cities all over the place are looking to deal with it, but even on a small scale, we're having to deal with it as well. So, you know, just because we're small doesn't mean that we get away with stuff. We have to comply as well. And there's a worst case scenario to this whole thing.
Yeah, I understand, and I understand that has to be considered is the way the language is in the Surplus Lands Act, that you have to consider the housing first. You have to consider that before other developments. That's the way I understand it. So I'm aware of.
And as we've discussed before, we've done a lot of changes to our housing element, allowing more ADUs in people's backyards, you know, even helping people with utilities and that kind of thing if necessary to encourage it. You know, you can't force people to put an ADU in their backyard if they don't want to. You know, we are getting to the point where we're looking around where we're a 1 square mile city.
I can't hear you.
That is not a lot of.
To note that
I didn't hear any of that.
the way
We missed all of that at home.
Everything I said, great.
Just the
so-
very most recent from between Lisa's comment to yours.
I think I heard, the last I heard was 1 square mile.
Yes, correct.
Okay, that's not too bad. Okay, so let me recap. So we are a 1 square mile city and we don't have much real estate. So we're looking around, we've made concessions to people. You can put an ADU in your backyard. We'll even help you with utilities, this, that. We can't force people to build ADUs in their gardens if they don't want to. So now we're looking at other real estate. What do we have? Okay, we have this wonderful area out there that's highly desirable for housing and even large cities have to deal with this. And just because
Sorry, we can't hear you. Sorry.
The audio is not coming across very well.
Doesn't mean we can get away with, we have how that we need to.
The audio is not coming across very well. Is there a way to open up the chat? Just a sec, Lisa. It looks like they're trying to modify the host.
All right, thank you, Trevor.
Yeah, no worries. I was missing a lot of that as well.
I know you put your hand to your ear.
Dude, I'm trying to, I've been here 5 months. I'm trying to pick
Can you
up
hear
on
us
some
okay?
of the minute things here, so. I think they're gonna get it squared away with, maybe a new host.
Are we back?
Oh, hello.
Hello there.
Okay.
All right.
Heard you talking about this. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, absolutely. Sounds great.
So I think something important to note, and I'm sorry, our internet is unstable and I don't know why. But Lisa, for the housing element update, it's been important for the city to go down the path of compliance, but to also make it Blue Lake specific. If we don't do that, the state will step in. They've already stepped in for ADU regulations. We are now under the state's mandate. Our regulations have ceased to exist because they're not compliant. So if we don't do this in a manner that reflects the city's goals and objectives, but also meets state compliance, we're just going to get the state's regulations. So we've been working hard to try and balance the two. And we've been working on this process for over 3 years.
Right, so the housing element update then.
Are there any other,
Just to be clear, the housing element update is the Powers Creek district is already incorporated into that. And is that what I understand? Is that correct?
The Powers Creek district is a specific zoning designation, which is zoning as part of your housing element.
Okay, okay.
Is there any other discussion, questions, or comments from public on this item? This was a discussion item. We will keep everyone updated when we're moving on to next steps. And you all for joining in on this item. All right. Further on item 10, we'll move on to item 11. Now, it looks like we have received an applicant.
Finally received an application.
Yay.
Unfortunately, the applicant is snowed in
Oh,
Maple Creek
oh,
and
no.
couldn't make it.
Oh, dear. Okay, because the question I was going to ask is, I don't know, is he also on the planning commission? I was
No.
confused. Okay, all right.
He's
Oh,
on the
he's
fire
on the
department, yeah.
fire department. Oh, okay, all right. Well, then that's good.
And the highlighter's a little better.
yeah.
Gonna need some like sticky note top cutoff.
Did you read through that?
Yeah,
Oh.
But has a way of doing that.
Big black Sharpie marker. Okay, well,
No,
Jake won't care
tops of sticky notes.
if he gets some random phone calls.
It's the old one.
Yeah, so Jake lives, he's just outside the city limits. He lives on the Mariah's property along Railroad. And so everyone, it's the kind of the ranch by the cemetery. So he lives right there. He's within the 3-mile radius that the council adopted for the EDC commission.
Yeah.
And it does meet the composition requirements because we do have another person who lives outside the city limits. Cindy Trobitz lives in Glendale. Jake he's got a lot of really good ideas. He's kind of a young entrepreneur. He's right before COVID hit, he was working to start Humboldt Juice Company. He had gotten really far into it and then COVID hit and kind of, knocked the feet out of everyone who was starting to go into restaurants and things. So he's I've talked with Jake extensively about some of his ideas. They're very on par with a lot of the stuff that the city's been pursuing already. He's very recreation centric, comes from the San Diego area.
How do you pronounce his last name?
Hassan.
Hudson.
Yeah. So after talking with him, I just encouraged him, I said, you should apply for the EDC. You've got a real strong interest in business. You're obviously pretty dedicated to the community. He joined the fire department this year. He's got a younger perspective, which is really nice as well. He's very savvy with, social media and outreach and how, his generation thinks and things that they are interested in. So it kind of helps give a mix to the commission as well. So I am bringing it forward to you. We've been advertising our vacancies for quite a while and haven't really picked up any real interest. So this would help round out our Economic Development Commission.
Does he have internet up there?
He does. He caretakes for the Big Bend Ranch, which is this beautiful estate in Maple Creek. And he had gone last night, not realizing a lot more snow than had been anticipated at the
So
lower
he
levels.
was planning to be at this meeting in
Yeah,
person? Oh, okay.
yeah.
Because I mean, that would have been the other option.
Right, and I know his
Yeah.
internet, he said with the snow, I got a text message saying everything's kind of out here and try and get through, but it might be kind of late, so.
Okay, are there any questions from council, comments? Is there anyone from the public that would like to weigh in on this item? All right, back to council. What's the desire of the city council?
I move we approve Jake Hudson's application and to the vacancy on the EDC.
Second.
All right. Motion by Elaine Curran to appoint Jake Hudson to our Economic Development Commission, seconded by Chris Curran. Any further discussion from council? Anything from public? Back to council for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes.
Great.
Yay,
It'd be nice to have a
thank you.
full commission.
Jake, looking forward to meeting you at some point. Very nice. Okay, council. On. Item 12. Any need to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I think we need a motion then to pass the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ben McCree, seconded by Karen to pass the consent agenda. Any further discussion from council? Anything from public? Back to council for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Reports of council and staff. Okay, we'll go around the table here. Ben, did you go to any meetings that you would like to report to us about?
Nope, nothing.
Okay. Elaine, did you
Yeah,
attend some meetings?
Just right before this meeting, there was a special meeting of HWMA. I didn't get to stay for the vote on anything, so we were considering two items. One was to turn the part of the Hawthorne Street transfer station where we used to accept CRV into food waste acceptance facility, and that's kind of a short term would be. It was presented to us as a short term solution to kind of more meet come into compliance with part of SB 1383 and composting facility. So Supervisor Madrone was mentioning that the proposed Nordic Aqua Farm proposes to transport quite a lot, hundreds of thousands of tons of fish waste out of the county, and there might be an opportunity to partner there to create a regional facility. And HWMA did several months ago submit a letter of support to the Board of Supervisors for the special financing district that they approved in Samoa. And the letter stated that, you know, we would appreciate land be looked at there if appropriate for our regional composting facility. So I think longer term, those things are in play, and shorter term, tonight, the board considered whether to make that move. And I don't know what they decided. And then the second thing we were about, but I didn't hear anything buyback in Arcata, and that 6 months is now up, and they're asking for another 6 months. And as part of asking for that 6 months, they are looking for HWMA to say that we will not do CRB because it's in competition, it would be in competition with them. So they, you know, if they're going to invest and create a whole new CRB buyback program and a facility, they want us to say that we're not going to start doing that. So it sounded to me like, you know, if we were looking at doing the food composting, then we wouldn't be able to do CRB at the transfer station, and then Hambro could perhaps do their facility.
Did they say what kind of the next steps are for them? Like what
For
the
CRB?
holdup is? I know there's been some coastal commission
Right.
discussions and things, but like,
Yeah, I know. What is the holdup?
Seems
Yeah, they
like
were
that's
really
frustrating.
confident before when we gave them the prior, we did commit to
Yeah.
not starting up CRV for 6 months. And then tonight, they wanted another 6 months extension, but I wasn't here. I came to this meeting. So I'll be able to report. I'm sure the minutes will come out. And I could always watch it on Access.
yeah.
I'll report back at our next meeting.
Do you normally have your HMA meeting right? before
No, this was a special meeting. They really wanted
Oh.
guidance. And then the consultants that Mandy mentioned, Edgar and Associates, are coming to do an actual site visit next week on the 3rd and 4th and meet with current places that are doing composting and get a lay of the land and see what we can do. So it sounds like there's going to be support for smaller scale composting, some of which we already have. And obviously backyard composting is still going to be a component of it. Kind of looking for ways that we can support all different levels of composting while we look for a larger regional facility. And are you go to the local task force meetings sometimes?
If I don't go, Trevor goes.
Oh, good.
So
Okay.
we've been, yeah, so I was
Great.
going and now Trevor's going.
Perfect.
So, and then I've been attending with Edgar and Associates.
Okay.
There's a lot of
A lot.
layers with HW.
Yeah.
Right.
I can speak to that a little bit as well.
Good,
Uh,
okay.
If anybody's extremely interested, I've been working with Edgar and Associates and a ton of regional associates regarding the composting plans, we received a waiver, which is nice, so we are 5 years out, but we really should start considering the implications of the SB 18 or 1383 as soon as possible, because they will come down on us. And ultimately, we're going to be held responsible for what we do with all of our waste and recycling. So it's something to think about. We have a little bit of a buffer. But if you have any questions, you can email me and I can send you all the information I have.
Thanks, Trevor. You kind of cut out, but
I have no way of telling if anything is going through, because like 80% of what is coming this way is just thoughts and prayers.
good job.
Okay.
All right. And did you attend any other meetings?
No, that was it.
Okay, I attended an HCOG meeting in Humboldt County Association of Governments. It was last Thursday via Zoom. We had a report on the 101 corridor project. They repackage it and re-advertise it. They call it the Indianola Underpass. That's another thing they call it. And it's coming in at about $2.5 million more because of the price of steel. And the whole project is over a little over $7 million. And Mike Wilson is now the supervisor representative, and he mentioned let Manila community know what you're up to, because it's going to affect that area, because they'll have to reroute traffic there, but that's not for a couple of years down the road. And then we had a decision that we are going to try to meet in person in the Eureka Council Chambers at the March meeting. So, and again, they also have a TV set, so they're going to be they can get people to Zoom in if they need to. Blue Lake has an award of $52,700 from the Transportation Development Act Local Transportation Fund. And you know about this because you're on the TACT. She's on the Technical Advisory Committee, which is the staff people that meet and talk about these items.
That's a higher allocation than we normally have received.
Yeah, I know. I was kind of excited when I saw that. And then we had to get a person to be on the Road Charge Program Technical Advisory Committee. And this is a seat that Sue Ornelas had, and she really liked it. What it mainly is very focused. It's talking about what to do about electric cars that do not pay gas tax. How are we going to tax them, or how are we going to capture revenue from them? So there's all kinds of ideas, like having something in the car that would actually track how much mileage your electric car was driving, but people are worried that that's too invasive and in their privacy. So it's very specifically towards what to do about that. And Sue Ornelas did it for many years, even then she was not on the council, but she still stayed on the committee, but really you have to be an elected official. So the mayor of Arcata, Stacy Atkins Salazar, who by the way is a local Blue Lake girl, now living in Arcata, decided to sit on that board. So we passed our overall work program for and the budget for 22 and 23. That was that meeting. Like any other meetings? So on to you, Chris.
RCEA is going to meet on Thursday. Blue Lake Fire was supposed to meet last night, but it was actually moved to tonight. And we're going to work on posting that meeting link on the city website, so it's more accessible, because right now it's only on hard copy. And also on the agenda for that meeting, a group of community members had met with Dan Flores, and they kind of looked at just kind of seeing if we can reevaluate the alarm, sounding the alarm, and how necessary it is. Right now, it's sort of a backup to the paging system. There's a group of concerned community members of concerns of the PTSD and triggers. Just kind of looking at really how necessary is that alarm, and can we move to a different solution for that? That'll be good to see next couple of meetings.
That was the fire department meeting?
It was going to be on the agenda tonight. But
Oh.
Yeah, it was at 6 o'clock, so I missed that meeting.
Why are they having it the same night as our meetings?
It got moved. It
Oh.
was supposed to be last night. We didn't have a quorum. So. And there's 2 vacancies on Blue Lake Fire still, so if you guys know anyone that would be interested in that board, they could use help. And economic development, I think most of that was covered actually in the city manager report.
What was Summer sitting on? She was sitting on redeck, wasn't she?
Redeck, yeah.
And that's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big, important one. Who
Ben
is the
doesn't
author?
ever get any
I have
meetings.
nothing.
Okay, redeck,
Yeah,
yay.
that's a
I mean,
fun
I
one.
have a feeling that I am the, but I'm not sure. I'd have to look back. at
Yeah, I don't
who
have it.
is the alternate. But that would be,
I think I'm the
that's-
alternate for redeck.
are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am.
Oh,
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, we could wait in another month and reorganize it,
right.
or we could have, I don't know when
We'll
they
have to
meet,
wait, probably.
but we don't have a representative. And we also didn't talk about who's the mayor, but I missed that too.
Okay, future agenda.
Well.
Well,
I
wait, because at
started it
next meeting, we're gonna have
kind of
applications back and we're gonna appoint someone. So
Yeah.
at that meeting, don't we do it, sometimes we do it all the same meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
you
can do
can.
it at the same time. That's what I thought too, but I
Okay.
did kind of, that means for a month, we really technically don't have
Unless,
The mayor
well,
pro
Chris,
tem.
can- oh, for, yeah, right,
the
right.
pro tem in case, you
But
know.
Chris could go to
I
drive
dropped in
in
or
the
something.
alternate. and report back. Okay.
But redeck, the only thing with redeck is we don't have anyone for the next meeting, whatever that is in
So Chris
March.
is the alternate.
Oh, you're the
alternate,
alternate. Oh, okay, yeah, cool, okay. Let's just do that. And then when we appoint someone, maybe we can reshuffle things around and look at them. So that can be part of next meeting. We need to see a list of
Yeah, we'll
all
bring
of
it up.
our commissions and.
Yeah, I would pull it up, but I'm afraid I might just blow the
Oh,
internet
no,
up or something.
anything. Yeah, and for a long time I was carrying around the binder that had that in there, but I haven't been doing that lately. Okay, so that was reports about the staff report. Good report, by the way. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it. It was a good format and.
I'll bring back at the next meeting,
The
the
font and
tracking
everything,
sheet.
yes.
We just hadn't
Yeah.
made there wasn't a lot of progress to really report, so.
I liked it. I liked the format.
Can't hear anything.
Well, yeah, this was something I asked.
Maybe we should try it. Anyway, we got
Oh.
2 copies. All of them? The bottom text is red,
Just the bottom.
Oh, got
and the
it.
top text. is the first
Okay,
one.
okay, see that, rhyming, okay.
Are we
We're-
back?
Can you hear us now?
No.
No.
Trevor
Oh,
sees
yes,
We're good.
yay.
so excited.
Okay.
Drivers are.
So the city manager report, we were just going over that, and did anyone have any questions or comments from the council about it, aside from the fact that we all thought it was a good format and very clear and concise? Is there anyone from public that would like to make a comment on this agenda item? Okay.
Was that the city
then I
manager's
guess we're
report?
done. Yeah,
Just, is the housing element update, is that available for the public to see? And the second question is there any more, what other venues are there for public input for that?
the planning commission would be the obvious answer to your second question.
But
And
when,
then-
do you know where they are in the process? Because I know it's on some fast track now. So, because it said that it would be they would go final, they would go through once the public hearing process is complete, it would go to the council, and I'm not sure what the public hearing process is.
The planning commission has a meeting
Can you hear us?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Okay. The planning commission has a meeting on what night, Mandy?
next Monday, and the information is posted, and I can, if you can't access it, I can provide you a copy. I can leave one at the front desk for you of the draft.
So it will be on the
So-
planning commissions. I can access it through the link in your webpage.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hey,
Okay.
Lisa, if you don't mind, I'm just kind of curious what an ideal situation would be for you. If you could send it to me so I could review it so that, I'm kind of new to the area. It'd be kind of cool for me to review some of these things before we get to it. So if you don't mind sending it to me, I'd appreciate it.
What's that to send to you? I'm sorry.
Your ideal situation, essentially, we all have different opinions about how things should look, and I'm kind of an out of towner, obviously, so it just helps me be informed about, the needs of the community and the desires. If you don't mind sending that to me, I'd appreciate it.
Oh, okay, okay. I'll try. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Trevor. Good idea. Future agenda items. I have appoint new council members, look at commissions. And select mayor pro tem. Okay, other future council agenda items. Anyone? No?
Well, you guys will be receiving the housing element and the DDA with Danco. Those will be
Yeah.
upcoming.
Okay. We'll need another one for performance evaluation because it takes multiple meetings to like decide on the process and do the letter and the evaluation and all of that. And then we have to present it to you. So probably that'll be something for the next two meetings, maybe 3. I don't know.
I feel like we just did
We-
this,
But
I
it's
think
because
we're-
it's due in March, so we were behind before, now we're behind again. So
You can
Yeah.
always just make it easier too on yourselves.
now it's, yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, at this time, we're going to go into closed session for public employee performance evaluation, government code number 54957, title city manager, Amanda Baker. If this becomes a motion and a second.
I'll move that we go into closed session.
Second.
To close session, all those in favor say aye. Oh, any further discussion? No. Any discussion from public? Back to council for the vote, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're in closed session.
So. Emily, we just stop recording.